and welcome back to Tiny Artist TV. Today we are doing day 28 of Aughost and the prompt is Lost. So this one was actually kind of inspired by another YouTube artist named Lavender Town, and she did a creepydrasta. Well, she has a series called Creepydrastas. If you like scary stories and you like art, check it out. She has a great voice for storytelling, by the way. But this one was inspired by the art for one of her earlier creepydrastas, where these two boys were supposed to be camping out in the woods in their backyard, and they come across a monster. So I translated that idea into a little girl who was playing on the playground, and her ball rolls into the high grass outside of the woods, and she comes across this spirit of people who have gotten lost in the woods, something of a forest guide, if you will. And he's actually kind of friendly. So she's not necessarily afraid of him because, like, she's a kid. Kids are very rarely afraid of things that they aren't told to be afraid of. So she doesn't know that this large, beastly ghost is supposed to be scary. But, I mean, he's friendly, so he's not scary, but of course someone who's, like, a little bit older and a little bit more jaded would be like, oh, I don't understand this thing. It must be trying to eat my child. That's not the case here. So it actually is just a really cute picture of this kind of, like, I guess it's kind of in the vein of Where the Wild Things Are, where you have these large beasts that are befriending this child. And so she's gotten lost in the woods, comes across this guy, and I do add a little bit of bloody drool in there because, you know, he's still a monster, but he's not going to eat her. And I played around with the idea of he did actually end up eating the mom, but I wanted to keep this cute, so I decided to scrap that idea and just have this big, friendly, grinning toad-like guy who's just like, oh, this little girl's lost, I guess I'll help her or whatever. And the first idea I play around with is the girl is dead and she doesn't realize she's dead, so these are two spirits that are just hanging out in the woods. But I don't remember why I got rid of that idea, but I guess I just didn't feel like it was a strong enough idea for this prompt in particular, which is why in her first text bubble she says, "Are you my mommy?" because she's been dead for so long she doesn't remember what her mom looks like. But then I change it to, "Have you seen my mommy?" implying that the girl is still alive, but this giant toad creature is this spirit that just lives in the woods and comes across people from time to time. And so that is where we take this prompt. And so now I'm just finishing out the line art. I definitely did enjoy doing this storybook style. It's a lot more loose, and I do keep it all in black and white to keep with the kind of ink illustration feel to it. And I had thought about playing around with some color, like some light washes of like maybe some greens and some reds and blues. But after I finished the initial inking with the lines and the gray wash, I was happy with it. So I just left it alone. And sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes you just have to leave it alone. And that's the great thing about digital art, is that if you make a mistake or if you want to play around with certain things, you can do that, as opposed to with traditional art. Once you lay something down, with most mediums, you're kind of stuck with it. So that's another reason why I've preferred doing these in digital media versus pencil and paper or pen and paper. Even though some of my sketches, I had started them in pencil, and then I just take my preliminary sketches and translate those into digital format so that I have that flexibility and the options to play around with some other things that aren't available in a traditional media. And again, here you can kind of see where her eyes look the same as the monster's eyes, that kind of like that hollow eye socket look that I've been carrying through with quite a few of my prompts. Because I had said that earlier, I wanted to keep the looks consistent, and that was inspired by the idea that maybe she had already been dead and she doesn't know that she's dead. But then I decided to just make her into a regular old creepy little girl. I make her hair black at one point and then decide that it looks kind of ratty and go back to just having it be highlighted. Do go back in later and clean up the text. My handwriting has always been kind of chicken scratchy. And so sometimes when I'm doing text and things, I'll have to go back over and clean it up a little bit. Here I'm using my rectangle brush, which I also used for clouds in my last video, which was land. It's a bit of a tongue twister there. Using the rectangle brush to just block out some of these trees here. And this is actually kind of a warm-up for next year. I want to get into what I call the one brush challenge, where you use one brush to do the entire picture. So with this one, I'm using this one brush to do the entire background. And with the one brush challenge, you can change the dynamics, the opacity, the angle, but you have to use that one brush. And I've actually kind of already been dabbling with this technique, which is why I wanted to go into the challenge to kind of push what I can do with these other brushes. Like this one here, with the grass, this is actually a brush that I usually use for hair, but with the blending, it makes it look like ink strokes, grass, pushing out some highlights from the negative space to give it a little more bit of interest, and I pull that out later. So right now I'm just cleaning up the little bits of overflow that I don't want on the figure. But yeah, with the one brush thing, I think it's gonna be, I hope it's gonna be fun. It's definitely gonna expand my appreciation for what the limited brush set that GIMP has, what it can do. And it would also be a good way to showcase, you know, it's not, you're not limited by your tool set, you're limited by your imagination. Well, sometimes it is a tool set, but 90% of the time, it's just a matter of pushing the boundaries of what you have, what you can do with what you have. And I know that using GIMP has definitely shown me that, because I've only used Photoshop for school projects when Photoshop was free to use, because I was already paying for school. So outside of school, I have always used GIMP, and using GIMP now has kind of become second nature, just because I've taken the time to play around with what's available and to customize things in a way that I'm comfortable with using them and can use it in a way that mimics other quote-unquote premium art programs. And again, just using the rectangle brush to wash in some shadows here. Just kind of fast and loose with the wash to kind of give the implication of shading. And that's the other thing with like illustration style or storybook style. The forms don't have to be absolute. There is so much freedom and so much flexibility in this style. And I don't work in this style often enough. I used to do this stuff all the time back in high school, and I actually kind of got made fun of for it by another art student, so I kind of stopped doing it for a while. But now that I'm out here doing my own thing and I don't care what anyone else thinks, I'm doing the art that makes me happy and sharing it with you guys. And that is ultimately the goal of this channel, is to just have a space where I can draw stuff that I enjoy and share with you the different techniques, and maybe somewhere along the way there's a middle ground and you guys will enjoy it too. We are are pretty much almost finished here with the sketch, just adding a little bit of wash to the girl now. And that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a weird day. See you guys next time.